Welcome to the Aaron Werner podcast on iCode Media. Today I chat with Ryne Wood from Elite Eye Care. They own 6 practices across 3 states, and recently he and I got to spend some time together in Orange County and had a great discussion over a beer. Wanted to bring him on and continue that discussion. So we talk about really systems within the practice and some ideas that I'm taking back. Hopefully you will get inspired by some of those ideas as well. So please enjoy the discussion. If you like it, please give us a 5-star review, share with a friend, and support those who support us. I don't just recommend Peak Pro to my patients. I use it daily, and so does my whole family. Honestly, it's one of those rare products my wife and daughters all love. So much so they actually fight over who stole the tea tree cleanser, the peptide cream, or even the hyaluronic acid. I had no idea this would be the case when I introduced them to the Peak Pro products. But I've learned they're a great company to work with, and their lineup covers everything from daily eyelid hygiene to deep hydration. I highly recommend checking them out. We've got a special affiliate link in the show notes, and use code WARNER for 25% off. The Myopia Collective. CooperVision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. All right, Ryan. So last time you and I were together was super long, 8 days ago, 10 days ago?
Right.
Sitting at a bar in Orange County and
We were.
enjoying the Oakley 50th anniversary. So I'm curious, before we jump into to what we want to talk about today, what were your takeaways from, what was your impression of the Oakley 50th anniversary?
So to me, I thought it was really cool. It was an honor to get to go and get to experience that. It definitely personally made me, not that I didn't appreciate the brand, but learn more about what they were all about and where they came from, and I think it just solidifies why we have that product and why it's also been as far as in the frame world just been a staple. It's done very well for us, and it always has. So
no, I thought the same. It was always a cool brand, but I think as I've learned more about who they are, in fact, they refer to it as the Oakley DNA.
It got a little cooler. Is what I would say.
Yeah. Got a little cooler, and it. I like too that you and I and Alex were outsiders at this event. It was very much an Oakley DNA, Oakley employee, past, present type of event, and we're used to being special, and we weren't special.
Well, for me, it was kind of a step back, see the big picture of where we're really at in this world of retail.
Yeah.
you know, and a little humbling is what I would say, and I'm okay with that. You know, that's it was neat to see, and also what I would say is kudos to Oakley, because I think that. I mean, you could just see the brand and their brand ambassadors and their team members there. You could pick them out. You knew who they were, and you know, I think that what I enjoyed is they all understood that story and they understood the mission very well. And I think that you know, something as business owners, that's something that we can take away. That I mean, I don't think I talked to one person from Oakley who couldn't answer those questions and who didn't want to spend time telling me all about it.
Yeah.
You know, which is cool to see, you know.
Yeah. It definitely is not a job for them. It's
right.
part of who they are.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought that was super cool. And the fact that, you know, there weren't suits walking around, right? You could have easily just transplanted everybody straight to the beach and it looked like that's the kind of event you were at.
Right.
So, and then how that DNA all meshed, because you know, Mark Cavendish was one of my cycling heroes, won the most Tour de France stage wins ever. He's just walking around and, you know, went to the same bar to get his beer like I went to get my beer. And, I mean, you know, we didn't have as much access to Travis Scott, but he was still right there.
Right there, right. Yeah, you know, and for me, Oakley, I was a baseball player. Okay. Right, so I remember, you know, my dad was a baseball coach. I played baseball, so it was, I mean, that, you know, you had the M frames in the early to mid '90s or whenever that was. I mean, you wanted the M frames. I remember, you know, Mark McGuire had the M. Everybody had the M frames, right?
Yeah. And
then it kind of went to the flak jackets, right? That was kind of more like my college, you know, and so. It was kind of cool to see how all of that tied in, and I really loved the history tour that we got, and seeing, you know, everything from the frames to the branding. I never knew like the frog skins.
Yeah.
You know, the story behind that. How cool!
Yeah, I love that story.
You know, it's super simple, and you're thinking about the 1, the 5. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. You know, and so, but what genius yet simple. Branding and marketing, and you tell me that like your team couldn't rally behind that?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And the other thing that I love too is the people that were engaged, you know, giving us the tours. You know, many of them were Oakley sponsored athletes growing up, coming from the BMX world. So they're not. Right. It's not an outside person talking it; they're people living it. Yeah. And my favorite poster that they had there was our R&D team works on the weekends, and it showed a bunch of motocross and BMX guys, cool. Right? Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. And one of the big takeaways was, you know, just self-ask reflection. Can my team talk about our DNA? Can my team talk about our mission,
our brand, right?
Our brand, who we are, and are we doing things because it improves vision, it improves function, or are we doing things because it drives a higher retail sale for the practice? Right. You know, like, where's that fine line within there? So it you know, made me think a little bit, and I appreciated that. In addition to you know, being able to be there.
Yeah, and I forget how they stated it, but basically, you know, the founder, they said, you know, we're always working to improve because someone else is, or I forget how they stated that.
Everything and everyone will always improve. It's just a matter of when and by whom.
And by when and by whom, right?
Yep.
Right.
So that's never happy with the status quo, and then they left us with the fact that Oakley's going to the moon,
right?
Creating the
cool.
That's super cool. Who would have thought a bunch of, you know, skateboarding, BMX, mountain, you know, motocross punks would have been commissioned to develop the shield for the next moon trip, which is amazing.
Right.
So it's
cool.
Cool story. So if I wanted to share that because those who are listening, I don't think a lot of people have had the chance to go to their headquarters in Southern California, and if you do get a chance, do it. If not, you know, understanding the brand, understanding the story behind it, just makes it that much more palpable and real, and less of a, you know, fad and more of something that I get excited to get behind.
Right.
Yep. So diving into what we initially wanted to talk about, and over a beer, we thought it'd be a great idea to chat about this and record it. It is, you've got a whole bunch of practices across multiple states and a whole bunch of people, and I'm really interested into how you guys manage that big breadth of team. But before we dive into it, give everybody a real quick intro as to who Ryne Wood is.
Oh, wow. So, Ryne Wood, I am the managing partner at Lead Eye Care. We are in the middle of nowhere, southeast Missouri, and our headquarters are in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We like to say it's kind of right between St. Louis and Memphis, right on the 55 corridor on the Mississippi River. But we have 6 locations. It's kind of a unique story. We have 3 here in Missouri. We have 2 in the DFW area, and we have 1 in Jackson, Tennessee. We did not ever dream this was how this was going to play out. Sometimes I'm not super sure I'd recommend it, but here we are, and we're figuring it out. And I was I grew up, personally. Real small town. I graduated high school with 26 folks. My wife and I both were from real small areas, and that's kind of how Cape Girardeau is. Cape Girardeau's it kind of draws from a tri-state area, swells up to about 150 during the working day. So, but population's about 40,000, and so. And so everyone's from like small communities around, and so we're definitely going to Southern California was a big trip and a big thing for us is what I'll say. But we were happy to be there, So, but
Nice.
With the practice, I actually started out as a technician, and so I started out as a technician here, and then. Went to optometry school, came back, and so I'm a benefactor of the practice, and this is kind of all I'd known. And then somewhere along the lines, we got the idea to start buying up some other locations, and here we are. So
Nice. So I have to say, 26 graduating class. I don't think I had a class in high school that had less than 30 people, like the actual,
Right.
my English class, my math class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think study hall even had more than that. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
You don't get away with much in that small.
Yeah. Hey, at one point in my high school, my dad was my high school baseball, basketball coach, and principal.
Wow. That's the kind of stuff I watch movies about, not live.
Right. Sure.
That's a whole different world for me.
Yeah.
So very cool. So I didn't realize you grew up in the practice too. That's
Yep.
As a technician.
I've never. This is all I've known, and so, but we've been very blessed, and we've had some great growth, and we are pretty notorious for getting out over our skis a little bit, but you figure it out, So
That's called being an entrepreneur.
there we go.
Yeah. Nice. So 6 practices, 3 states.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly how many employees, non-doctor employees do you have?
Non-doctors a little over 50. With our docs is a little over 60.
Okay.
So it's kind of unique, and we have one really large location, and then the others are very typical, like a 1 doctor a day type location.
Okay. So how's your management structure set up? Because if you've got 6 locations and that many, how do you have your management structure? Because I can't imagine that you get a chance to visit all those with just how widespread
right.
they
So
are.
so what we try to do, and this is something we've learned, so really, I'm the managing partner. So there's 4 of us in Missouri that own a little bit of everything, and then there's 1 in Texas that partners in with us. But I'm the managing partner, so I have time set aside that I do management. We've got a COO, or a practice administrator, if you will. Her and I work kind of hand in hand. And then what we've done is, we've got location managers. The larger location has several managers, and then we have kind of team leads underneath that who'd have different responsibilities. And so it's something that as we've grown, it's evolved, and it's evolved into new roles, and that's always a challenge, but a fun challenge,
Yep.
So but that's one thing that we've kind of learned, is that it's good, you still need at the locations, you still need someone there to be this is who you need to talk to if something comes up or something arises, and then we kind of manage and talk directly with them is how we do it.
Okay. So each location has a team lead, a manager.
Yeah, team leader, manager, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they kind of answered to us as far as the administrator and myself, and then we've got kind of a CFO role. We've got some managers, and some of our roles have kind of started to morph in. We haven't really said this title yet, but almost like a director, if you will, because you almost start to, you start to centralize things.
Yep.
Right. We've got a call center manager, and we start to centralize things, and control. It helps to control, let's say, like cost of goods, and even just your office purchases and things. It's because it's always, whatever you can buy as a whole, you tend to get a little better deal on it, and so
Yep.
you kind of start to develop those roles and pathways as you continue to grow.
That makes sense. What instructions, what freedoms, guardrails, however you want to call it, do you put out on to your managers at the local non-main location, right? So the ones that are running those offices, do they have a budget on things they can spend? Do they hire? Do they fire? How much of autonomy do you give them?
Yeah, so and again, we're growing, and
Yep.
and we're forming these roles right now, right? So I think that the hiring and the firing, what we try to do is we've got folks that are identifying that on the back end, as far, especially the hiring side of it, and it's more of here's a working interview. Here's who you need to set up, bring them in. What do you think? Let's go with this one. As far as team members there, the firing side of it, I mean, it's goes to the HR. It's their role is to document everything, get that kind of the channel, and then can they, if the situation were to arise and it's a must, yes, but typically that tends to fall to a little higher up the food chain there when we're trying to do. We're trying to part ways, with that type of thing, and that's something too. We run that through ownership. It's, hey, this is what we're doing, so everyone knows, and that's with having multiple owners. That's something that can also have its challenges, because it's we've got to make sure that we communicate well, and when you're in different spots, it becomes more difficult to do that, for sure. So what we do as owners, we meet once a week. And it's kind of a report. Hey, here's everything that's going on in the locations, and try to inform them the best we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like you guys have really focused on putting like systems into place. So if I've got somebody
Yes.
that I'm not happy with, it's there's a system that local director, manager, whatever role we put them into.
Yeah, and we
puts them
do.
through.
So our location managers or team leads, I mean, their role is they do check-ins weekly with team members, right? So
Okay.
they're checking in weekly. And we're asking three simple questions. It's what do you need? I'd have to think about what do you need. How are you doing? And just simple questions. And then if we trying to identify those HR situations, if you will, like, right, let's get this before this ball gets bigger. And then and they're reporting that up. So then the team leads, managers, they'll meet with our our administrator or myself, and that's where we're always continuing having those conversations. But we're trying to check in with everybody once a week is what we try to do.
That makes sense. What does that check-in look like?
Simple. It's less than 5 minutes is the goal, right? I mean, as far as, and it can be in between patients. It can be, because it's always interesting. Those formal check-ins, they just seem to be a little stuffy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that it's always it's nervous to the team member. It's a little nervous to the person who's giving it, and we don't want it to be like that. It's really more of a pulse of, how, what's your overall well-being here at the office? Like, how are we doing? What do you need? Because that's a huge pet peeve of mine is, if equipment or if we don't have something, like, let's make sure we get our, I feel like as a manager's role, it's our role to make sure we're getting our team their tools and their resources that they need to do their daily job. And so that's something that we really try hard at. And it's crazy to me to look back and just how many computers we have. Like, it blows my mind. I'm like, do what? Because everything's got to run by a computer. So.
Oh yeah. So that's cool. Are there set questions that you have your managers ask? Do you just ask them to check in? Or
there's three
reported?
questions that they repeat.
Okay.
I don't want to. I knew you were going to ask me. I don't want to tell you the wrong ones here, like on the spot. I had a nice Monday myself seeing patients. So
Yeah.
but it's basically, how are you doing? What do you need? And I can't. The third one. I can't remember what the third one is. So So I'm failing.
It'll come to us.
So yeah.
Well, I think those two are really good ones to start with. And if you're checking in with them on a weekly basis, I imagine the first month probably feels awkward and weird.
It's really awkward. Yeah, that's what they say. And but again, it's just designed for, hey, let's talk about these things. What are your challenges? And it's my role as a manager to make you better, right? Like, how can I help to make you better? And what you find out is, and I do think that, it's been super interesting as we've grown, and what I mean there is, we've been very fortunate over the years to have a good retention rate, right? And then we've kind of found out once we get to that 40, 50, then you start to see a little bit of this over here, and then there's a little self-reflecting of going, okay, is it us? So what did we do? What are we doing? And but then you start to, I forget, I was reading an article, or you start to see that once you get up over about 50, you start to see a little bit of this right here, and it's been pretty accurate on our end of it. And so I think that the whole premise of those check-ins is just what I was going to get at is you start to learn and elevate those higher team members, but then you really start to also figure out the ones that maybe they don't fit our brand. You don't want to. You want to make sure that you're not spending too much time there. And I think it's, the whole slow to hire, quick to part ways type thing. And I think that's something that, unfortunately, you start to realize the more that you've done this. And so.
Yeah, I'm smirking for those who are listening and not watching, because the grass is always greener. So I would think that, we've got a solo location doing just under 2 million, and, about a 10 to 12 total team members. And I'm going, man, if I just had that many, like, it would be so much easier if somebody called out sick to move bodies around. And I'm looking at your face going, wow, like, it was a lot easier managing 10 people than it is managing 50.
Careful what you wish for, like, I mean, I think we are actually having this conversation, you, Alex, and myself, when we were on our trip there, just how that's the cool thing about optometry, right? Is just how everybody practices a little different. And I feel like, you've always got to be paying attention, because I feel like that if you ever think you've got it figured out, that couldn't be more further from the truth, and then you go to, us three get together and spinning off ideas, and you're like, oh, yeah, that makes so much more sense. Why didn't I think of this, and so it's been for me, and that's something too, just our, revision source, I mean, it's just it's a very humbling experience a lot of times for me, and I have no problem, not being the smartest person in the room. Promise. Yeah. Like, that's perfectly fine for me, But I'd rather be the sponge.
Yeah, I hear you. I try not to be, and I mean, it's easy to do, not being the smartest person in the room. But I love when I've got other smart people, because to your point, you say sponge, I just steal ideas and steal your all the hard work y'all have done and try to go back and implement it. But I think your point is spot on slow to slow to hire and quicker to promote to ex-employee. The I think the hard part is managing, at least for me, being an optometrist who generally is a good person and gives people second and third and fourth and fifth chances.
Right.
And their excuse about their 18th grandma passing away is we try to believe because we don't want to think the worst in people.
Right.
But it becomes really tough when you're trying to run a business with that type of mentality.
Right. Yeah, right, and it just the more folks that are involved, you just start to see more of that, and unfortunately, and it's been an interesting landscape. I think for sure the last few years, just the hiring side of it, and we've had here and with our practices, we've seen a large increase with our staff wages and things along those lines. And the hardest part I feel like about our profession is that then you've got to figure out different ways to generate income because unfortunately like managed vision care, we've still got the same reimbursement, and so those are challenges.
So how do you talk with your team, all of your teams, knowing that we know what our reimbursement is going to be per visit with managed care, and we know what levers we can hopefully pull on additional sales or bringing people back for dry workups or myopia management or whatnot. How do you talk to your team to try to help them understand what role they play in driving the revenue for the practice as well as enhancing patient care?
So what a week looks like on our end of things, so we actually do we do a 2-hour meeting every week with our team. Okay, and so
2 hours with everybody.
2 hours. We do 2
Wow.
hours. And so what it is, it's a meeting / training, and this was kind of a COVID learn, if you will. And because the way we figured is if we could be shut down for so many days and still end up being okay at the end of the year, as this ball has gotten bigger and as we've had new team members, we really need to find time to train. And I promise you it's there if you really break down the numbers and crunch it. And so for us, like we start in Missouri on Monday mornings, that's when we have our meeting. Tennessee's Tuesday, Texas is Wednesday. And so what we do is we do about an hour and a half, hour 45 minute of training. And that can look different depending on department, depending on the need. We use our, like our practice KPIs to help drive what we feel like we need to work on. But I think that, the way that we try to do that is, one, the founder of our practice, Dr. Greg Lead, the patients first, right? The patients first. He was a big Disney guy, so we had a lot of that sprinkled in throughout the years, and it's interesting. We always kind of come back to that at the end of the day. Just take care of people, right? Just take care of people. We try to provide that concierge service, as many practices do. We try to stand behind our products, but as far as our role of our team, and like for instance, let's say our technician team, our clinical team, I always try to tell them, we always try to tell them, they spend the absolute most time with our patient outside of anybody in our practice, because they're going to call the patient, they're working them up, and then our team will come in and scribe with us. And one of my favorite things is when I walk in and the patient, they look at me, they go, "Ryan, what are you going to do? They've already done everything. What are you going to do?" And I go, "Perfect. I just wanted to see how you were doing. What do you need?" And so I think that we're only as good as our teams. And if you really think about it, the doc's only in there 5-10 minutes, maybe, right? We're there 5-10 minutes, and so if that patient was 40 to 45 minutes, your team took care of the rest of that. And so, that, we try to really put that on them and help them to understand that they are the most important folks that we have in this whole practice. This practice isn't here because of our docs. It's not here, because we're the greatest docs in the world and we do the best optometry and eye care, that can be found. It's because we have a good team and fortunately we get commented on that a lot, and I can't speak enough about that. It's just take care of people and treat them the way that you want to be treated, right?
Yep.
And but it's only the hardest thing we'll ever do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know. And
Oh yeah.
so, but I think that I know that's really simple, but that's just what we try to do, is just try to take care of folks.
So, no, I think that's huge. You've got my mind going in a couple different directions. The first is the 2-hour meeting.
Yeah.
If you're closing 6 locations, 2 hours a week, so that's
Right.
12 hours a week as a business, the whole day a week that you guys are saying, no, us being on the same page is more important than opening those slots and making the revenue that we could have lost. Because I can see our listeners thinking, wow, counting all that lost revenue.
Right. Don't do the math.
You don't do the math.
Yeah, don't do the math. Right.
And it's hard to get teams to do just, a huddle at the beginning. And I thought,
Right.
I had my chest out and puffed up because we do an hour a week, and
Yeah.
and you guys put us to shame. So how important is that 2 hours across all 60 locations? Oh, 6 locations.
I think it's really important, and I think that the one thing that I would say as far as the revenue is we haven't not grown since this will be our 3rd year we've done it. We haven't not grown since we've done it, right? Since
Okay.
we've simply implemented this, and it's scary. It is hard for content, but kind of what it looks like if you look at a month. Okay, so it's one of we try to do a little bit of. I'll call it open training, and it kind of we had a realization, and this is a process we're still trying to refine for each department, but it's it hit us kind of after the first year. It's like we're educating and we're educating and we're so it's like, okay, well, how do you get better at shooting a basketball? You don't just talk about it. You got to shoot the basketball, right? And so for us, it kind of like, so we figured out, okay, we've got like all these test patients that we run through, and we try to do like real life scenarios and get our team reps and get them to the docs. We work on our billing and we work on our coding. We work on, we may work on multiple pairs. We may work on with our opticians. We may work on pulling our benefits and making sure our team understands those benefits. So there's always, what I'd say is when you can get in that environment and you can get your team engaged, there'll be plenty to talk about, and plenty that you can work on. And so, but I mean, it's just trying to make that process and trying to make that experience better and easier for our patients, because, it may have been us that were talking about this, we make it so hard. Right, like we make it so hard, to purchase from us,
Yes.
and trying to break down those barriers of, well, this is the way it was always done. Like we've got to break that and try to make it a little simpler. But again, I think of the buttocks, the ease, is that what it's called? Or,
Ease. Yep.
Yeah. Like I think that's great. Where eliminate, automate, simplify, and I don't remember how that went, but whatever that acronym is there, I think that's something that we try to do, and with our staff sometimes. So what I was getting at, sometimes it's open training. Sometimes we'll bring in a vendor and they're educating us on something, and then we go through our KPIs, and then typically once a month it's usually like more of a traditional type staff meeting, where you're hey, what's going on? What do we need to work on? What are we fixing? And but I think it's been good for us, and content's tough sometimes. But what you find out is you end up kind of doing the same thing about every quarter. Whether it's okay, now we're focusing on our year supply, and we're focusing on, because it's funny when you stop talking about things start to go down a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, I like what you talked about on learning that you can't just talk about shooting the basket. You got to actually shoot the ball, and you have to go through the repetitions. We're going to do a discussion about it, so I don't want to give too much away, but we hired Chris Wolf to come in last week to the practice and spend a whole day just watching us.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's not much more intimidating than having the Chris Wolf.
I could only imagine. Right.
Sitting over your corner, your shoulder watching, and I was just praying that nothing crazy came in. But it was really interesting, and the conversations and the feedback that he gave were incredible. What it reminded me of, and I don't know if you have, I can't remember. I don't know. You don't have teenage daughters yet, or teenage kids, but I've got a teenage daughter. Alex has the teenagers, but they often will respond back with a tone that just drives me nuts. Right? Yeah. It's disrespectful. It's condescending. Their face looks like they hate me and despise everything about me. And I call them out on it, and they're flabbergasted because they have no idea that's how they communicated across. They thought they were just responding kindly and nicely. So without that practice, without that feedback, we just don't know what we're doing. Yeah. And so going through the practice sessions, if you will, getting those repetitions, and I like that the way you said that. Role play sucks, but I think getting repetitions is very, very positive. So much so that we like the concept, and now we're creating a schedule for all of our doctors to quarterly to follow and spend time following their peers in the practice, just learning and giving feedback.
Yeah. Man, I bet that was interesting with Chris, because he's just, for me. So, and I think I told you this. Chris, he taught KMK. He was part of that when I went through, but it was like he made things so simple, so clear, he's just one of those folks for me. Like when Chris talks, I listen. Right? It's just like, okay, I've got to listen here because if I'm not, I'm going to miss an opportunity to learn something. And so I couldn't imagine having him on site. And then probably whatever he says, your team is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's just do this, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm just the idiot guy when it comes to my team.
Yeah, guys, I've said this 5 times, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's but he has a good way of putting it in, and I'll tell you that with very few exceptions, and Chris being the top of this list, I've not invested in coaching and training opportunities that haven't come back and quickly paid off their expense and then had a huge ROI afterwards. It's I think we're, as you said earlier, don't count the dollars, don't add up the math, because it'll scare you and it'll keep you from doing something more.
Well, and I think that's where, to me, it's like at some point you've got to invest in your team and developing the people. Right? Because I think that's how, like when we started this whole conversation and talking about Oakley, right? I mean, they had to invest in their team, and taking the time that, hey, this is the way that we want you to do this. We've got to get the training in. We've got to get the knowledge in, because to me, one of the other side of it is one of the most unfortunate things we do is when that patient will come through and they'll tell, hey, did they just start here, or did it, right? And it's just, oh man, that hurt. It hurts on my end of it, because we're going, okay, we've got to make sure we get this team member more reps, and we've got to get them through. We've got to get them ready, And I think that, I think that as your practice, starts to change, evolve, you want to take those team members and, elevate them. That's elevate them, make them the best that we possibly can, and that's what we try to do, especially in those meetings too.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you said something I think that is fundamental, but it frustrates the hell out of business owners and entrepreneurs, and that's that every quarter you got to go back and you find yourselves going back and doing the same thing, because you and I and entrepreneurs we're a little bit of a different breed, aside from managed vision care contracts, because people refuse to read those. But we try to understand our business. I've got a whole library of business books behind me trying to understand and play with and challenge the business. But our employees go home at the end of the day. They get in their car and hopefully they've forgotten about work. At least I hope mine do, because they need to go live their life. And it always stuck with me. Somebody once told me, and I went and looked it up, and it was true, that John Wooden, the basketball coach at UCLA, started every season, the first practice, teaching his players how to tie their shoes. Okay. Right, which sounds really silly and dumb. And I have learned that there is a proper way to tie your shoes. It ends up in a square knot. I do judge you if your shoe is not tied in a square knot. I will never tell you, but I do judge you.
I got to check mine when I get done here. Yeah.
Because it tightens on itself. It doesn't come undone, right?
Yeah.
And you can easily tell, because a correctly tied square knot, the bows go go laterally, perpendicular to the shoe, so they just sit nicely. If it's a granny knot, then the bows go with the shoe, and that knot will become undone. And you can tell they know that because they tied another knot on top of it. So now he's got this giant wad of shoelace. But he teaches them to tie their shoe, and the beauty behind that is, one, it's the most basic task that you would think they know how to do already, especially college player. But paying attention to it at that high level really sets the stage all the way through. And at the end of the day, it's blocking and tackling that win games, and it's the basics that help us be successful in the practice. It's not that 5-pair sale that you got for $5,000. It's the one pair to everybody that needs something. It's the the handoff. It's the communication. It's that kind of stuff that makes this work.
Right. Yeah, so. And that's something, with our training. I mean, we've really invested a lot in it. I mean, we got a competency that our team does on an annual. Hey, show us you can do these things, and it's simple. It's everything. Scheduling a patient. Everybody should be able to schedule a patient. Everybody, So there's things that we go through, and it's kind of we got to get this checked off on your annual evaluation and things, and that's something I feel like has helped. And it was a little different, of course, when we first started implementing, especially some of our team members have been with us a long time, but I think that the more we talk about it, they understand. And I think also we try, as we're doing our training, and we're big believers of the medical model, see one, do one, teach one, right? Like you really understand it when you can teach something. And so we also have our team members lead some of those trainings. And that's something that's been, it's not just, one of our docs up talking about it. It's having those team members lead that. And it's been neat. I mean, it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but I think that it's something that we really invested in, and it's, I think it's been good for us.
I like that. I like that a lot in the, especially the competency evaluations. As basic as things are, I can't tell you the number of times in my office that I've gone up to an optician and asked them about a specific frame brand, or a technician and asked them about equipment. And you know what this is? Oh yeah, I got it. Cool. Tell me. And then the deer in the headlight, right? Yeah. It's not putting them on the spot to fail them, but if you can perform under that situation, then you can perform when when it's time to happen. And actually use that concept. I never connected the two until right now. I love to shoot. I think I'm not very good at golf, so it's my version of golf and challenging. And I beat up some paper silhouettes, but I refuse to take a course with an instructor that won't demonstrate beforehand. So show me what you want me to do. If you don't have to be perfect, but if you mess up, explain to me why, because I need to be aware that you know what to do, and then help me get through to that level. So I think the annual competency is pretty neat. I'm going to steal that from you. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've kind of got it by department. I mean, there's like a generalized section, and then it was kind of, and it kind of matches. So we adopted, I think it was Lori's like onboarding calendars. Mm-hmm. Right, and so it's got your checklist and everything. So it kind of goes, still part of that checklist of it type thing. And so it's, that's been good. And that's what you start to have all these systems, right?
Yeah.
And because, and you've got to trust your team and your managers. You've got to give them some grace, because everybody's learning with this. You've got to put it on them. Hey, this is your responsibility, and I think that's where, I think naturally, I may be the world's worst delegator, and I think sometimes as business owners, I'll just do this, I'll do that, and I think that as you grow and you invest in people, that's something that was hard for me to be okay with, as far as this is who's going to train, and this is we need you to do this. But what you end up doing is you're making that team member better,
Mm-hmm.
And that's I know it probably sounds simple, but it's hard to do that sometimes.
Oh, for sure. And I think that the neat thing though is in the check-ins is one, you standardize they can do it. You train you trust each other, and then when somebody's when everybody's doing it the same way, because you all have to pass the same competency, it builds more trust from a practice owner standpoint, I think it also eliminates the bad game of telephone we see sometimes in training, where Susie trained Bob, who trained Mary, who trained Tim, and now by the time I see it, I'm going, what in the heck are you guys doing? Well, that's how it was trained. And so it makes sure that you don't get too far off course. My brother-in-law is a commercial airline pilot, and they have to go back and get, recertified constantly. And so I think that's a genius idea.
Is, it's like what you got to be careful of is then that manager or team lead just going through the motions, and it's like they'll come to you and they'll say, hey, so-and-so can't do lensometry, and it's like, okay, well, but their competency right here or their 90-day eval says that they can, that you signed, so what do you mean they can't do it? Like, so there was a little bit of that learning curve as we were doing it, of saying like, hey, we can't just because they can tell us that they can do, we've got to see it, we've got to make sure,
Yeah, keeps them honest, and everybody. No, I think that's super important, and holds everybody accountable. I also think it's important that for our teams we show them what good looks like. If you're again, sports analogies, right? If you're the center, you're never scoring a touchdown. So good for you can't be, did you score a touchdown?
Right.
But they have to be, of course we want to win the game, but they also have to know, did they perform well, whether the team won or lost? And so what does good look like for them? What are their, how do I know that I did a good job? And so being able to have those competencies that are pass fail, but it's very clearly spelled out what you do is important. So get rid of the emotional aspect of it that sometimes we like to rely on a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So, no, this is super helpful, and I think despite that you have 6 locations and I have 1, I think a lot of the structure that you've talked about can really help even a single location practice. Because my biggest challenge was, and a lot of single location challenges, is delegation. Because you're there so much, it's hard to delegate when I can easily step in and just do it myself. But then my stuff doesn't get done because I'm doing everybody else's job.
Well, and that's what is the analogy. You want to be working on your practice, not for your practice, right?
Yeah.
And that's just empowering those team members, I think, and I think that's key. That because you want to be able to leave the office and know that things are taken care of, but it's a lot of it takes a lot of time and a lot of checks and balances and revisiting things to get there. But man, that's a great feeling when you can, for sure.
Oh, I'll bet. That's the whole point. You brought up the business optometry ease course, and that's the whole point of the ease course, was to move away from owning a job. Which there's nothing wrong with owning a job, but if I'm the sole breadwinner of the practice essentially, and I leave for a 2-week Hawaiian vacation, there's no money coming in. To owning a business where I can leave and the business still operates without me. And you had asked about the acronym for EASE, so elevate, automate, simplify, and eliminate.
Eliminate. That's what it was. That's the last one. Yeah. The most important one is what that is.
My favorite one, and I'm really it's funny. It's hard to do. We had my team meeting with my leadership team at my office this morning, and they talked about things that they're adding since our Chris visit. And I said, okay, what are we getting rid of? And they said, what? And I said, well, if you add one thing, you have to get rid of something else. Otherwise, we're going to burn out our team members. So what are you getting rid of? If we're going to track a new KPI, what KPI are we no longer tracking?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get rid of some of that stuff.
Man, we've really scaled, talking about KPIs, we've really scaled ours down a lot. And just, there's obviously on the owners and our side of it, we're looking at more, but as far as what we're showing with our team, because I think you can really get in the weeds of that sometimes. And I think some are super interested, like as in 10%, but 90% are, I think there's just a different way to go about it. So again, that's what we use to figure out, what do we need to focus on with our training. It's kind of how we're using. Now we show it to them and we'll do some things, but it's really scaled down a lot. I think we've got down to like eight or so is what we're trying to show him, instead of the 25 to 30 that all of us optometrists like to make things super complicated about, and like capture. Well, how are you defining your capture rate?
Oh yeah. The fun optometry owner math. I was going to say only 30 KPIs. Those are rookie numbers, Ryan. You got to at least double that, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. Well, hey, man, we're fortunate here in Southeast Missouri. We a little bit slower here. It was already simple, so we got to go a little simpler. We got it down to 8 or 10 now.
Yeah. No, I agree with you though. It's important to share them, to share just the important numbers with the team and the ones that move the needle. And the one with low-hanging fruit. I'd heard that phrase multiple times from a speaker, and I thought I understood, but I pulled them aside afterwards and said, you keep saying low-hanging fruit. What do you mean by that? Like, just give me the visual you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he said, look, if I'm picking apples, I can walk down and just reach up and pull the apples and put them in my basket. But if I see an apple way up in the top of the tree, I either need to get a ladder or I got to climb the tree. There's a lot of effort to get that one apple. And I think sometimes in optometry, we talk about that one apple, right? That one patient who didn't buy, that one case that we've submitted 10 times back to managed vision care to try to get paid for. And I've spent $1,000 trying to get back 40. Right? Yeah. Just let the apple on the top of the tree go and just grab all the low-hanging ones. I said, okay, I can appreciate that visual. Yeah,
that's that 5%. That's what we kind of call it here. It's like, hey, is this happening more than 5% of the time? Let's talk about it. But if it's not, if it's every once in a while, we're always like, some of these things are just going to come up, And,
I like that 5%.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we use here, and hey, because it's always interesting when I'm trying to think of an example of this happens all of the time. Is what it always follows with. This happens all of the time. Say, okay, well, let's track it. And then, you come to find out it's less than 5% most times, And so it's like, do we really want to change a process
for 5%?
For 5%,
Yeah.
And can't win them all. We're going to win most of them. Is what we're trying to do. But I think that's where I think you got to be really careful about that, because you're just constantly trying to reinvent something where. Did you really need to go after the apple on the very top of the tree?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We call that the one crazy guy on Yelp.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my gosh, we got him. Like, is that the one crazy guy on Yelp? Just ignore him, right? If that comment's been repeated, then let's talk about it. But
sure,
I like that, the 5%, the one crazy guy, and it's important to track it because we're really quick to emotionalize because we like our baby. Our baby's pretty, right? My one baby's pretty. All 6 babies of yours are pretty, and so it's hard when somebody calls our baby ugly. But everybody's that one crazy person is going to think everything's ugly no matter what.
Yeah,
so,
that's
awesome.
So true. Yeah,
that's cool. Well, Ryan, we need to have beers more often because it clearly motivates us to jump on this and have even deeper conversations. And I've got 2 pages of notes of things that I'm going to take back to the office. So when my team listens to this, they're going to immediately message me and say, absolutely not. No more stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I do like the annual competencies, even from the exercise of what do my teams need to know. Like just, can I list out what every person, every role should know how to do at a moment's notice? I think that's a good task for a leader, and then obviously implementing it. A competency check is a good task. I'm not sure we're going to go to 2-hour meetings, but I'm definitely holding tight to my 1-hour meeting.
It's like an hour and a half to hour 45. Yeah. No, so we can get ready for patient care.
Yeah.
But no, at the end of the day, I think the summary there's just there's more time there than what you realize to train, and it's you have to invest in it. And that's, we chose to do it, and again, that was kind of the COVID learn is what I chalk that up as.
Oh, it's a great lesson, and because if you don't take time to learn, you can't expect them to. And during the run of patient day, there's no time to train and learn, and they're not gonna. I shouldn't expect them to go home. I tell them, there's the rule of 8s. In my office, you've got 8 hours to sleep at night. You've got 8 hours that you're on my clock working hard, and then you've got 8 hours where I hope that you're not thinking about me at all.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
You steal? There you go. Hey, I gave Ryan something. That. Yeah. So, but when I've got you for 8 hours, like I want you focused here, and then when you leave, our agreement is I don't want you thinking about this, and I'm not going to reach out to you unless it's an emergency. I expect you to, if you've got work left undone, it's there tomorrow. You go do you and live your world. And that 8 hours of sleep is important, especially the younger I hire. They seem to forget that you can't function well on 2 hours of sleep at a couple of Celsiuses.
Right.
So cool. This is good stuff, man. I appreciate spending time with you and your awesome bride out in Orange County and in Oakley for bringing us out. And I really appreciate the insights that you've shared here and just hearing the story of Elite.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. We appreciate you having us. So.
Absolutely.
All right, have a good evening.